What's going on, everybody? This is Drew over at Future Strategy Gaming, coming at you with the first of many reaction videos. Right now, we're going to take a look at a couple of different ones from Bellular. For people who aren't aware of what he does, he is a WoW content creator with a team behind him, has very high production value, does a great job on lore, who due to WoW's kind of content drought and not really having too much to go along, as well as his team pushing him a little bit. He has decided to move into the realm of Final Fantasy, which is great for our community because this gives it a little bit more exposure within his, and he does happen to have a large reach. So the first video we're going to take a look at is Bellular's first impressions. From what I understand, he also has a co-host. I've watched some of their non-Final Fantasy related videos, as I do come from WoW. So I've seen his co-host, and his co-host, from what I understand, has played Final as well. So we're just going to listen to these two and give our honest reaction as it happens. Let's get to it.
So I think the next thing to talk about is a game. It's another game. It's not World of Warcraft, but it is a game that I think
I love their setup. They've got so much ready to go.
Not been able to ignore that.
He'll click topics in the top left corner.
It may just be Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers.
They've got everything set up they want to talk about.
All right. Well, we're getting to this much earlier than I expected. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm going to kick it off with my thoughts and impressions so far. I have properly played the game for like 4 or 5 hours. I mean, put it this way, I'm like level 19. I have just left Gridania.
Great zone. Great starting zone.
My character is. So I did like the little, you know, the initial arc.
Okay.
Starting off as an archer.
Yep.
Archer. So, that's a good class.
I have a few different thoughts. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is look and feel.
Yeah.
Immediately, Final Fantasy XIV does not feel great if you're used to World of Warcraft because you have
stylistic
acceleration changes on the character movement, right? So you hit the W key in WoW, your character goes instantly. You do it in Final Fantasy, there's a little curve. There's like a ramp up to your speed.
That's just the animation. That's not how it goes.
Like it's the animation, not speed.
Okay.
So, really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
There's something about it. It just doesn't feel as snappy and reactive as WoW does to me.
It's the thing where you will figure that out.
It does feel that way, but it's not.
Like tapping A and D repeatedly, or if you go to a fight, I'm pretty sure there's literally zero acceleration.
Interesting.
Because I've never felt it.
So just the animation then?
Yeah, it's just the animation.
Okay, I guess I'm sensitive to that. Hotkeys. Yep. Doesn't feel as tight as WoW.
It's not.
Big
not
true.
Even close.
Yeah, it's
so I think
not
that's
even
something. If they could fix that up,
okay, yeah,
it would be good.
So this is the thing, right? It's because of how the engine works. It's because of it all. I mean, you're completely correct, but everything is all of like the engine stuff running underneath is impeccable. Essentially, when you hit a button, it does register. It's just the animation, it going and come down.
Yeah, that's it.
And all that stuff means that it can be really awkward, but it is a good experience when you get into fights, and like really tight fights don't feel sloppy.
Yeah.
True.
Actually looking at it feels it.
As I've got more abilities and went through my rotation a few more times, it's feeling better to me now.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing is look. How does the game look? And that is an interesting one because they have one of the worst anti-aliasing problems I have seen. The only AA that's available
it's not great.
FFXIV, and that basically just looks like a Vaseline smear on top of the game. So it's terrible with FFXIV, with that on.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
I mean, the aliasing is just kind of insane.
Context. Bellular has his own game studio. He is currently developing a game with his team. So I feel like he's giving a little bit more of a technical analysis, which for the average player, that's not going to be a big deal. No one's going to go in there and be like, oh man, the anti-aliasing is just awful. I can't play this game. I mean, he's obviously said he's pushed past it. But I mean, unless you're within that realm or, you do something with an animation or something that utilizes anti-aliasing, for the most part, no one's really going to care. And quite frankly, technology has started to push past that. 4K monitors, graphics cards are getting wild these days. So I wouldn't take too much stock in that.
I think that their shadows, I think it's the color temperature of their shadows actually that I
Right.
don't like.
He's got
It's like the shadows are
way
almost
more in depth.
uniformly quite gray, and they're in like, yeah, I feel like there should be more of a color cast to their shadows. So there's been like a whole bunch of technical and compositional issues that I've had with the starting content of the game that they do take a little bit to get over, and I think.
I guess.
It immediately looks worse than World of Warcraft does because WoW is so stylized.
Yeah, stylistically is
And
way
what that
different.
basically means is in FF, I think you basically need to go and get reshade
Yeah,
or something like that to get a good AA
Yeah,
implementation.
I think it's the actual software is Reshade. I think there's Storm Shade and G Shade, which I think are pre-configured ones designed for FF by people. I've not tried them yet because I have a 4K
against
monitor and
TOS?
only a 980 on my PC, so I
would fall over,
I
yeah.
want to play at 4K, which means I have graphics settings low all the time. But
It's a tricky thing where I actually feel like I really like a lot of their compositions, like their levels. They feel really good to run around in.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think the quality that is there is, at least in the A Realm Reborn stuff that I've seen so far, which is basically just Gridania, it's kind of betrayed by technical engine problems that some of them
That
do
changes.
persist that I've seen from your gameplay of Shadowbringers content, and that is kind of unfortunate. Now, that said, once I actually got through all of those initial
it's
things
not a
where the
big
game didn't
deal.
feel as snappy as WoW, it didn't look as crisp and stylized as well, I actually started to get into things. Oddly enough, that's where it started to humongously pick
Oh,
up
thank
the
God.
pace
I thought he was
and,
just
be
not going to enjoy it.
interesting to me. So I'm trying to think of like what to do first. The 2.5 second GCD.
Who cares?
Don't mind.
Yeah, thank you.
It didn't.
It's
actually,
not a big
piss me off
deal.
that much, and I have played.
If you can get past the initial leveling experience and push into the upper 40s and beyond, the 2.5 second GCD doesn't feel that way anymore because there's so many different off global cooldowns that you get as your character gets more fleshed out, that you're constantly doing stuff. So if you're coming over from WoW like I did, sure, shock value might be like, man, this is a little slow. Give it some time as you get through. It's not going to be something that you care about 100%.
On your higher level bard. So having the higher GCD, but after, whatever level your bard was.
yeah, that was only 50 or something.
Yeah,
50,
so it's like
50,
you're
60
level,
something.
you're like level 50 or 60 bard. Yeah, the GCD doesn't feel mega great, but you're actually
At
weaving
first.
instant cast things in between that.
Exactly.
And I think with the
Exactly.
design of so many of the rotations, like I've been looking at the samurai one because
It's a good class.
basically I'm only playing an archer / bard until 50, and then I think I want to go samurai with it. I feel like it should all work quite well. So on the gameplay front, I'm actually quite happy looking at the top end gameplay that I've seen. It also just that they look like in-depth, interesting rotations.
I really wish we had time today to let you play like one of the Eden normal fights on my bar.
Cat's being a dick. Let's get back to it. Sorry about that.
Bard, because you would have loved it.
Yeah.
You also would have died instantly.
So I guess then to move into experience, what happens whenever the anti-aliasing and the shadows,
All that
and,
technical stuff
it
that
feeling a little
average
bit
players
clunky
aren't
at
going to care
times,
about.
once you're through that, you have music that thus far I love.
So good. Yes, so good.
I love, yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely, at least the Gridania stuff,
yeah.
so I've loved the music. And like just the vibe,
Gets
the
better.
ambience, I think has been really nice, really successful.
Gets
It feels
much
cozy,
better.
basically.
Gridania specifically is gorgeous. That
Yeah, so I've
great
I've
stuff.
actually liked my Gridania experience quite a bit. That's been quite good. Narrative then is funny because I'm playing through A Realm Reborn, which everybody
Slow.
says is by far the worst content that this game has.
It's just because
And
the volume
think
makes it that way.
If this game started off at the quality level that Shadowbringer seems to be, we would have a very different conversation right now, and I think WoW would be in a lot more trouble
We'll be
because
dead.
I think
No.
this game likely.
WoW is always going to have some market share of the MMO until that game says we no longer are running our servers. It's not to say it's dead is not true. There's always going to be people who enjoy that game, and until Blizzard says we don't want to pay to run these servers anymore, that game will continue to push on. So dead's an overstatement for sure.
Is a large problem with attracting new players because they have to get through the content of a
It can be a lot.
And,
it definitely can be a lot.
Suggest a boost to somebody, but it feels a bit weird to buy a game and then boost through the content. That does
don't do that.
See, I was always thinking, okay, maybe you could kind of do some like ARR boost start Heavensward, and that might be good. But after playing Shadowbringers, I would say literally, if you boost, you are ruining the game for yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's what I've heard, and what I found so far as I've played the game, actually paying attention to the quest text. I could see the little, I was doing these seemingly disparate things helping people out in the forests of Gridania, but they all came together actually really quite satisfyingly.
Yeah.
And they came together in a way where I actually learned more about the world, more about the lore and the world building. And I really liked how I learned more about the big picture of things by doing small scale things in the world that came together to be more than the sum of their parts. So that led to a situation with me where I actually didn't mind the whole talk to this NPC, run over there, talk to that NPC, run over there, because I was starting to get engaged and trying to work out like the little mystery that was going on.
Feels a little bit immersive.
There's another thing there where the amount of XP that you get for those talkie quests is not trivial.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you actually feel completely fine to do those talkie quests because the game rewards you appropriately, which makes sense because the narrative that is covered in those quests is important narrative.
Yep.
So you get a proper. Somebody said, most important question, are you a cat girl? Yes, I think I'm a sun.
Why is that always a thing?
Maybe moon cat girl.
You're keeper of the sun. Keeper of the sun, Mikote.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
What's the deal? What's the deal with the whole cat girl thing? Like, if you just look around the MMO genre, every game does it. I don't understand why cat girl is weird. I mean, Volpera in WoW, Blood Elves, Draenei, like, there are plenty of situations where they have their own weird little fantasy, and people seem to always just pick cat girls from Final like it's this big weird thing. This is not uncommon.
That's. I was thinking of going for like a dragon or something, but I could not make a character on Zodiark, so I had to go with an old, basically meme cat girl character that I created and did not touch at all. But you know what? I'm actually having fun thus far. Some other things then, I guess, that I've liked. The hunting log system.
Cool system.
That kind of
really cool system. Very easy.
Well, there's like 5 levels of the hunting log. Each one has got. Basically, it's just kill 4 of this mob.
Right.
We will give you a little bonus of XP.
Yep.
Do all of that to complete 1 level of the hunting log. You get a larger bonus chunk of XP. And all it basically means is when you're running through the genre, like, oh, that mob there, I need that for my hunting log. Kill it, done. And it's just like, that's something you could transplant into WoW and it would actually be quite cool and fun. No, I mean, it's not a big thing. It's just that it adds you. It's
just flavor.
Like a little thing to be like, oh, that's a nice little thing I can do as I level.
Also,
sprinkle on top of a cupcake. It's not going to change the gameplay or the experience, but
it doesn't go on past
it's not going to take away.
Like 2.x or whatever, and then they change it with more specific. There are big monsters out in the world that spawn every couple of days. Go do this with a group of people.
That's cooler for
which is very different.
Heading end game though.
It's extremely different and it replaces it. But the point is, it's still there, so you can still do it, and it does. Honestly, I honestly think a lot of the 2.0 world, I actually learned the names of like very specific places.
Yeah.
Just because I've done the hunting log on so many different like classes now. So I have every job.
Yeah, so every base class that you start with has their own hunting log. And for the most part, all of them are the same exact mobs between it. It's just class specific. So you start to, if you level multiple classes, you start to realize you're like, okay, I know that I need to go to the footfalls for these 2 mobs, and they're both going to be in these 2 areas of the footfalls. And you get to a point where by doing it on multiple different classes, it becomes not repetitive. Excuse me. It just further cements itself within your brain and becomes something that you instinctually go, I know where that is.
Job at least 30. And then only one up at 80. But it's just, I've done all of the early hunting log stuff. So I'm just going, oh, there we go. Like I know, like you say, words like. Well, I'm trying now that I can't think of any examples. Now that I've put myself on the spot, helpfully, but I'm just like, oh yeah, I have a rough idea where that is.
Right, exactly.
I can
helps
click
with the
map,
world
click
building.
Teleport, go there.
I guess actually that's another thing. Teleport. This is a game you just teleport over the. As long as you unlock the Aether or whatever shard in a zone, you click on it, you pay some gil, you teleport there. So handy.
Yeah.
It
works
doesn't
for the game,
destroy
though.
the world or the story or anything like that. It works in this game. It works in Guild Wars 2. So that's something worth thinking about. But there is a cheaper Chocobo taxi system you can use as well. So that was interesting. Fate.
So on that, it works for Final. It can work in other games. I know that WoW tried to implement it kind of within the Shadowlands system, you know, specific to your Covenant and that particular zone that you're in. You can get a portal network going. But I think it works for Final Fantasy because that system is... the worlds are large enough that it doesn't feel like it shrinks the world. Whereas, you know, if you've been able to play classic WoW, big thing is there's no flying other than taking the flight master, and those flights are so long that it actually helps create the scale of the world. You know, it makes it feel large. When you don't have flying and you don't have a lot of the aetheryte shards attuned to during the early parts of your gameplay, what you're gonna see is you're gonna use the chocobo portal to get around, and that kind of makes you feel a little bit more immersed in the world because you're looking around while this self-guided track system happens to work in the background, and you really start to feel like you're a part of this world. So I think the aetheryte system definitely works within this game. You know, so it doesn't take away from the gameplay. I won't pause again. It looks like we have a minute left.
Fates are basically just like little zone events.
Right.
And I mean, there were zone events while I was leveling up in a Realm Reborn content.
It's been in the game for the entire time.
That is above Shadowlands leveling content.
Unfortunately.
Like, why is that not
He
there?
just takes a text message mid conversation.
Yeah, it's just a case of it was put there in the start and it keeps going. And because you can play every job on a character, people will just go, oh yeah, I've got like, you know,
exactly.
I've got Rogue, like level 2. I might as well play a little bit.
Another thing too, that I can play different jobs on my same character. That's great because like I'm doing this character, it is an archer, it will turn into a bard. I'm going to hit level 50, unlock samurai, probably go over to that. Great. That's really cool. As I really like that. Yep. So there's that. There's the Fates, which I really liked.
Okay, that's going to be it. So in that regard, talking about all jobs on one level, with his reaction, it almost feels like he hasn't played a lot of the other Final Fantasies, which I don't know if that's the case or not, but that is specific to the franchise. That's something that this franchise has done multiple different times. Hell, one of my favorite Final Fantasy games is Tactics Advanced, you know, where you just level jobs on all your characters, and it's a great game. I think that works for Final Fantasy, in particular 14, in this regard, because you know, it's come to be expected of the genre, as well as, you know, it really allows you to feel like you're more immersed or connected to your character because you're able to do all this. You can do all the different jobs. You can do all the different, all the different crafting or gathering professions. And, you know, all that is progression on this one character. Whereas in WoW, I can see it going both ways. On one hand, in WoW, if you play multiple characters, you have this flavor where it's like, hey, this character has different armor type and or model and looks a little bit differently when wearing specific sets. You have different racial abilities and different perks from playing different classes. You know, whereas unfortunately, hey, if I want to go do something else, I got to log off and go onto my alt. So I can see it going both ways in the WoW front. I think it works in Final. It would not work in WoW. It would completely decimate how WoW operates. And so there's pluses and minuses to both sides. It's not a better system by any means, but it is a unique system, and it is a little bit different. So, okay, cool. Nice quick video. First impressions, looks like he's not too far into the game. For context, I've only played through 5.1 at this point. I played Stormblood for the last like 4 months of the expansion leading up to Shadowbringers, and then got promoted at my job 4 days after Shadowbringers came out, and unfortunately I had to put the game down until a couple of months ago. So I'm still playing catch up. It has been a fantastic game. I've played WoW at a very high level at times of my life, so it's very unique to see someone who makes as much content. I'm really excited to hear how he feels later on as he plays in the story, because if you're not familiar with his content, a lot of it is lore driven. He does such a great job with WoW lore. It'll be really interesting and unique to see what he thinks of the story, because it's a JRPG. Story drives this game. So I'm really excited to see what that's like. So thank you so much for coming out, watching the video. Really appreciate it. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button down below. If you want to see more of these videos and or some of my other content, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell button for me. If you feel like you want to talk about one of his points a little bit more, drop a comment down below and we can get to it. I'm Drew from Future Strategy Gaming. Thanks so much for giving me your time today. Take care. Peace.